The keys to the kingdom of heaven, what is it? I believe he's already told us. In the parable of the soil. Let's look at what we have about Peter here. And let's see how Peter's choices to cultivate the soil of his heart has led to this point where God revealed to him that Jesus was the Messiah. Matthew chapter 4, we see Jesus calls Peter and his brother Andrew to follow him. And what does Peter do? He drops his nets and he follows him. This is Peter taking one step of obedience, one step of responding to the conviction of his calling, one step of sacrifice, one step towards following this rabbi that he doesn't know. He doesn't know where he's going. He doesn't know what he's doing. He doesn't know what it's going to look like. He doesn't know where his next meal is coming from. He doesn't know how he's going to pay this. He has a sick mother-in-law. He doesn't know how to do with that. There's all this stuff he doesn't know. But he takes a step of faith into the unknown, and that's his step in cultivating the soil of his heart. That's one step, one little step, to be this fertile soil where the rest of the gospel can start to germinate. Just that one step into the unknown. He doesn't know anything other than he was called, and so he went. And let's see what happens next. We see 4 chapters later, we see Peter's mother-in-law is healed by Jesus. This shows Peter takes one act of faith and asks this Jesus to perform this miracle for his mother-in-law. Wow. The other thing that he's doing, I read in another commentary, is that he is publicly declaring that he endorses this rabbi that's claiming he can do miracles, claiming that he is God. He's aligning himself with God, with Jesus publicly. That's a step of faith. This other step, like he draws closer. You see what he's doing? Jesus says, follow me. And so he draws a little closer to Jesus and he starts following him. And then he asks Jesus and engages with Jesus, the miracle for his mother-in-law. And then he's drawing closer to Jesus. He's taking these steps towards Jesus. And his soil of his heart is being cultivated by these little steps. In Matthew 14, we see Jesus. Now, Peter isn't mentioned by name, but he is included in the disciples when Jesus feeds the 5,000. And the disciples come, and they're the ones that are handing out the bread and the wine. They're the ones, when Jesus says, feed them, he's one of them that said, okay. And he did. And he followed Jesus. He didn't know how it was going to happen. He didn't know how you're going to take these fishes and loaves and feed that many people. But he stepped out in faith. One more. Do you see how this is another little step where he draws closer to Jesus just through obedience? And then it says that when he saw the miracle, he was filled with awe. It says that too also when he saw his mother-in-law healed, he was filled with awe. They were filled with awe. Do you know the gift of being filled with awe didn't come until after the step of faith into the unknown? And we tend to want it backwards in our society. And with our relationship with God, we want God to prove himself to us so we can believe. We want to see the miracle. We want God to come and rescue me. We want God to reveal himself in this glorious way, and then we'll believe. Well, friends, that's not called faith. That's just called knowing something. Right? So, if you look at the parable of the soils, every act of faith is cultivating your soil to receive more and more revelation of who Jesus is. And when Peter is asked, who are you? Or who do you say that I am? And Peter says, you are Jesus. He came to that revelation because over his journeys with Jesus, almost 3 years to this point, this journey with Jesus, over this time he has taken little steps of faith. He's followed Jesus. He's seen the miracles. His faith has been strengthened. He's looking around him, and his heart is open to Jesus, so he's seeing the fact that the sun is rising as a gift from God. And he's seeing the rain as a blessing. And he's seeing the fact that it's hard to carry all this stuff from town to town. He's seeing that as a blessing because he's building his muscle, right? His attitude and perspective is changing because his heart has been cultivated to where he can see the beauty of God. The invitation of Jesus is everywhere because he's been cultivating his heart with these little steps of obedience along the way. And those are gifts from God. And so when it comes to the culmination of seeing, of declaring who Jesus is, he says, you are the Son of God. You're the Savior of the world. You're the one we've been waiting for. I see it.